Hello, today we're going to talk about holiday cactus. We will start with some history. Holiday cactus got their names from because of the times of the season they bloomed, such as Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. Thanksgiving and Christmas cactus are in the same genus, believe it or not, and they're also all epiphytic, which means that they grow in trees in their natural habitat, and they're epilithic, that means they can also grow on rocks and some other organic materials. They are all native to the mountainous areas of Brazil. They are leafless. The stems themselves are actually what photosynthesizes, so they're basically just a plant of stems. The plants were in cultivation in Europe by 1818, depending on the species that we talk about. Hybrids were on the market by the 1850s, and we'll get into all the variations in the cultivars and the species a little bit later. The native range of holiday cactus, as you can see in this picture here, that is the mountainous areas of Brazil. On the Atlantic Ocean there, you can see the red there where they grow naturally in their native habitat. First off, we have Thanksgiving cactus, which is Schlumbergia truncata, which has little pointed teeth along the leaf. It's probably the most widely grown one around here that most people have, and you can buy at the garden centers. And you can see by the picture there of the little pointy spikes that's actually on the stems. Most of these are sold as Christmas cactuses because they actually bloom naturally around Thanksgiving, and that's the time that we are usually starting to decorate for Christmas. So that's how they got their name for as the Thanksgiving cactus or the Christmas cactus. The actual Christmas cactus is a Schlumbergia bridgesii, which has flat leaves with rounded teeth, as you can see there. By that picture, there's not any spikes actually on the stems there. They're more rounded, and that's the main difference between the two. And this one will bloom a little bit later um, in the season, closer to the actual time of Christmas. And then we have the holiday cactus, which is the one that we also we know it as the Easter cactus. This is Rhipsodilopsis. This one has pointed teeth with fibrous hairs at the leaf joint. So that's how you can tell this one apart. And you can see in the middle picture there, little hairs coming from the joints where the actual stem or the leaf pieces, not really leaf pieces, but stem pieces meet. And you can see the little bristles there in the picture. Also, the flower shape's a little, quite a bit different in this than the other holiday cactuses, and that's the main difference. This one is not as available on the market. You don't see it near it as often, and it's a little bit bigger plant when it's growing, but it's also another nice one to have, and it will bloom more into the Easter category. And I know many of you all have had these holiday cactus, and they actually will bloom out of season. That's generally due to our house lights and temperatures that kind of trick them into throwing out blooms here and there. But you know what? We enjoy them, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some uses in the countries with warmer climates, such as Africa, Latin America, and Australia, they don't have fir trees to decorate at Christmas time, so they can decorate a Christmas cactus instead. You can see where they're piled together on this stand here, and they make one big Christmas tree there out of Christmas cactus. You can see how pretty that is. And they're also popular gifts to give on holidays, and they are here in our country as well. Tropical perennial cactus. These are tropical perennial cactuses in their native habitat. They're not here. We have to bring them indoors. The flowers on the plants bloom generally once a year and come in colors of fuchsia, yellow, salmon, pink, white, orange, red, and sometimes they will even have more than one color. And then they can also throw some sports where they change colors on one plant. And the green pointed leaf-like structures on the plant are actually called cladodes. Sorry, it's easy for me to say, and are basically modified stem segments. In their native habitat, they can reach 30 to 45 centimeters tall. As far as culture, Christmas cactus need to be kept in a sunny location while inside. You can give them the brightest window you've got in the house. That's great. They would love that. They can be moved outside in the summer, which is usually what I would prefer to do with them. But they do need to be kept in a shady or semi-shady area outside. They do not like full sun at all. Remember back at their where they grow naturally, they're growing on tree branches, so they're in a shaded area, their natural location. And ideal temperatures during the growth period from April to September is 70 to 80 degrees. Don't worry if it gets up in the 90s while they're outside in the shade, they'll be just fine. You do want to avoid really cold temperatures, and we'll talk about that a little bit though. As far as water and fertilizer, water when you're growing medium is dry to the touch. During summer, the cactus are tolerant of slightly drier conditions, which is fine. Never let the plants become waterlogged because the one way to kill these usually is for them to rot off at the base of the soil surface. This is especially important in the winter to not overwater. And the plants must not dry out when in bud or flower. They need to be constantly moist because this is a must time for the bloom to develop. If not, if you let them dry out, they'll drop their blooms. They won't flower again until the following season. So once you start to see little buds form, make sure you keep that moist but not wet. That's the main thing. As far as fertilizer, you want to fertilize in late winter or early spring as new growth appears. I like to just wait until I fertilize them once I take them outdoors after the frost has passed. Throughout the summer, you can maintain a 1/2 strength of well-balanced soluble fertilizers such as 20-10-20 or 20-20-20 with trace elements. There's a picture here of Peters. I'm not saying that's better or worse than the other. You can use Miracle Grow. You can use generics, whatever you like. It's fine. Holiday cactus have a higher requirement for magnesium than other plants, so that's why we will make sure we do a well-balanced fertilizer. You can even use Osmocote as a slow release, which would also give you those trace nutrients. Monthly watering with a teaspoon of Epsom salt can help give you some of that magnesium as well. And a gallon of water will help, but don't do it during the same week as the monthly fertilizer. So again, a teaspoon of Epsom salt to a gallon of water can help. I like to just do a multi-purpose fertilizer and not worry about that extra Epsom salt for the magnesium. They usually get plenty from your regular fertilizers. You want to stop fertilizing in late summer. That will help you get a greater bloom production because remember, nitrogen tells the plant to grow new leaves, and this plant actually has new stems. But you want to kind of hold off on that where that new growth will go into flower buds instead of new stem lengths. As far as growing medium, they do grow best in somewhat pot-bound situations. They're epiphytic. Again, they're growing in cracks of tree bark or rock or those kinds of things. They don't mind being pot-bound at all. They do require repotting only about every 3 years. Even you can go longer than that in most situations even. As far as your soil goes, you want 1 part coarse sand or perlite, 1 part potting soil, and 2 parts peat. Or you can just buy the pre-mixed cactus formula here that you can get, which is usually the easiest because most of us don't need a lot of our cactus formula. If you have a lot of succulents, you can may want to mix your own. But by the time you buy bags of all those different things to mix your own, it's just about most times going to be cheaper just to go ahead and buy it pre-mixed. Do not use any media that has clay or heavy soil again because that's going to have more water and we don't want these plants to rot. And the main thing is your pot needs to have proper drainage. That's a must-have. As far as pots goes, you can use just about anything you want. In these pictures here, you can use reuse the plastic pots you had from nursery or garden centers. You can use some really pretty pots if you'd like, if you've got the ceramic types. You can start them in cups. The plant doesn't really care as long as that medium that you're growing them in is light and it drains well. Hanging baskets are good for some of these as well, especially as the plants get longer because they will hang down over the pot. And then we've got a clay pot there, which is kind of my personal favorite with clay, with anything that's kind of a succulent or can't stand wet conditions because the clay pot will actually wick moisture and will also dry the plant out a little quicker. And that can help you avoid having too wet of a situation where you might cause some rot on those stems. As far as fungal diseases, there's a basal stem rot where brown spots will actually form at the soil line. And as the tissue dies, it turns tan and falls away. Don't injure your stems because you're getting that bacteria in there, and don't overwater. That's the main thing. Fungicides might help, but for the most part, the 2 biggest things you can do is try not to damage that stem at that soil surface, and then just be sure you don't overwater it. They can rot off at the soil surface, and you can see where that piece there is starting to rot. If you were to break those new stem pieces above that, you could put those in a new container with some new soil and they would root. So you won't lose a plant altogether if you act quickly. Another problem here is botrytis blight. It's usually on the flowers if they die, if you leave them on there and it's too moist. They can be covered in gray fungal growth. You want to make sure you increase your airflow and you keep your foliage and flowers dry. Again, fungicides could help, but it's really not warranted. Most of us in a home situation is not going to find this problem because our homes are pretty dry and it's just too dry of a condition for this to form on the flowers in your house. We can also get impatiens necrotic spot virus, which is, again, a virus is incurable in plants. The plants may have no symptoms, so they may be yellowed or spotted or wilted. Um, the main thing to keep this from spreading is to spray for thrips. And then if you have a plant that looks like the one here that never really greens up correctly and grows right, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and just get rid of that plant to make sure that it doesn't have it. Another thing would be to not grow impatiens if you know you've got a lot of Christmas cactus and they're important to you. Another thing would be not to take those Christmas cactuses outside, especially if you know you're going to have impatiens out there. Those are just a few precautions that you could take to keep from getting those. Mealy bugs and scale insects are probably going to be the two biggest problems you're going to have if you have any problems other than overwatering your Christmas cactus. Mealy bugs are on a lot of house plants, and once you get them, they're hard to control, or they used to be hard to control, as did the scale insects, especially on house plants because there's no natural predators in the house. There's no rainfall that would, keep their numbers down by knocking them off the plant. But now, if you do notice that you've got the mealy bugs, as you see in the top picture there with the cottony masses on the backs of the actual insect, or the little scale down at the bottom where they're actually flattened and stuck to those stems. If you do find that you have those, there's a product called Bayer Advanced for houseplants. It's similar to the Bayer Advanced for trees and shrubs. There's multiple formulas depending on what you're putting those on. But this formula is for houseplants, and all you have to do is mix it up by the label directions and water your plants with it. And in a month or so, all your little insects will be dead and gone. Now, you may see some of the cottony mass on there just left over from the insect dying, and you may see the little scales still stuck on there because they're not likely just to fall off just because they died, but they will die, and you will notice your plant growing again and doing well again. So where can you buy your Christmas cactuses? Obviously at stores such as Walmart, Lowe's during the Christmas season. We're probably starting to get those in around now until Thanksgiving. You'll see a lot. Also greenhouses such as Pemberton's in Lexington, which is where the plants are coming from that you're going to get in this class. You can also mail order those. If you look online, there's numerous types of varieties and hybrids out there. Also, floral shops during the Christmas season also sell these a lot of times for people to buy and give to other people. And then, in the case for you, you're going to get yours at the Extension office through this Wheelbarrow Series class. Some tips on getting your rebloom. First off, you need bright light. That's the main thing. And then long nights. 14 hours or more of continuous darkness each day is required before flower bud set will occur. It will occur naturally because our days naturally become shorter. Long nights should be started about the middle of September and continued for at least 6 continuous weeks for a complete bud set. Again, that's pretty much right where if you don't have very many lights on in the house, you've got these in the room that the lights are normally not on during the evening, they're going to get that light requirement. And also, as little as 2 hours of interrupted lighting will inhibit your flower bud set. It depends on the varieties as well. The new varieties usually will bloom a lot easier than some of the older varieties will. And the buds normally will be visible in 3 to 4 weeks after it's gotten that the longer nights. The photo period has no effect on flowering once the buds are set. So once the flower buds are set, you can give this plant all the light you want, leave the lights on in the house, whatever you need to do, and it'll still go ahead and flower. In fall, your growing temperature should be kept between 60 and 68 but as close to 68 as possible for maximum flower production. And then plants grown with night temperature between 50 and 59 will set their flower buds regardless of your day length, but growth will be slower and bud drop may occur at 50 degrees. So what I like to do is put my Christmas cactuses outside for the summer. They'll get their light requirement. And sometime the beginning of October, once we've had some temperatures down between 50 and 59 for a few nights, and it's time to bring them in anyway because it's going to start getting colder. It's about time you bring your tropical plants in for the winter anyway. Just bring them in. They'll have set their flower buds, and you'll get a good bloom set that way. Pinching back the stems in early June can promote branching, which will give you more terminals for more flowers. Also, pinching can be, it also is called leveling. At the end of September, to move any terminal stem segments that are less than uh, basically a half an inch long and need to make all stems approximately the same length. These short, immature stem segments will not initiate flower buds until mature. And after a short stem is removed, a flower bud forms on the previous, more mature stem segment. Now, most of us are not going to go through that trouble, and I will admit I have not either. I usually let them bloom however they want, but I do give them the temperature and the right light to make sure they set plenty of flower buds. Easter cactus bloom when coming out of dormancy in the spring, so they're a little different than our Thanksgiving and Christmas cactuses are. So they bloom in the spring, and they need to be treated. They don't need the above treatments, which they don't need the pinching back, which most of us are not going to do that anyway. Except if you want to pinch them in the when they're after they bloom to get new growth, and then that growth will overwinter and it will bloom more in the spring. As far as propagation goes, you can do this in May or June. Basically, just pinch off some segments of stem where they meet each other with 3 to 5 uh, phytoclads or stem segments. It's easier to just say stem segments. And allow the segments to heal or callus by placing them outdoors in the shade for a day or two. You can leave them on the counter in the house, that's fine too. But you just want that little break where you cut that or where you broke that or cut that to heal over for a few days. Again, using your cactus potting medium um, with new containers or disinfected containers. Again, you can wash old containers with a 10% bleach solution. Make sure you rinse them really well, and that'll kill any kind of bacteria that might have been in there. And then you can place your 3 cuttings in a 4-inch pot. Cut end should be in the soil, about 1 inch. They do better if you do root 2 or 3 pieces together. That way you can get a thicker pot and a thicker plant a lot quicker. You want to water the pots and place in a clear plastic bag loosely over the plant and secure it to the pot with a rubber band. You can just make a little tent however you need to do that. And then place the plant in bright indirect light until it's rooted, usually 3 to 8 weeks. You can also put them under grow light, works really well that way as well. And also you can root the cuttings in water, believe it or not, but it's just a lot easier and more foolproof to go ahead and just let them root in a cactus medium. So what's out there, I can't hit these on this video to look at these right now, but here's some different websites where you can go on if you want to mail order some, and you can see a lot of different varieties that way, and maybe some that you've not seen before. So some sources for this PowerPoint video here, you can see those. You can go to some of those websites as well and get some more information. And you can see there's Purdue. They've got a fact sheet on Christmas cactuses. There's some other ones there, doityourself.com. A lot of different places there if you want to go do a little more research on the holiday cactus. So if you have any questions, you can always contact me here at the Extension office. You can give me a call at 859-336-7741. And as always, you can email me. You can send me messages on social media. Any of those kinds of things are just fine. And for those that signed up for the class, the Christmas cactuses will be mixed, and you will get 3. And I will do a 1 call for those that signed up for this class and let them know how to come and pick up their holiday cactus. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Happy gardening.